the average weight loss for the 65 or so people was 8 pounds in that 30 days, which, guys, there's a lot of companies out here on big doing, spending millions of dollars of ads talking about 3 pounds average, 5 pounds average. Folks, we averaged 8 pounds on the average for every single one of those people. The 10% of them, 25% of them lost 10 pounds or more. And with the maximum weight loss was 18, we had numerous people lose 18, 17 pounds, et cetera, in the program. So that just gives you a little information of how well the program works. And simply put, on the simple terms, I'm going to give you you're going to get in just a minute more of the formulation and lots more information. But the simple term of this, folks, you just simply spray it in the mouth. When you have that craving, maybe it's 10 a.m. in the morning, you want to go for the donut, you just simply spread it in the mouth and it suppresses your appetite, folks. And now when it does that, it's not just an appetite suppressant. You're going to see how this is designed in a moment. It's also working and it starts the fat burning process. So there's two things going on: appetite suppressant, you're not hungry, getting a better and cleaner mindset. And then you're also are getting the fat burning starting to happen. And so another way you want to use this is, 15, 20 minutes before a meal, spray it. And that way, when the meal rolls around, you're a lot less hungry. You kind of push away the table. You're making smarter choices, et cetera. It's amazing how this product affects you mentally. It makes you kind of an acute mental awareness, and it's just amazing how it works that way. Okay, and so real quickly, but I'm going to share with you the best way to use. I found the best way to use this product. Okay, if you want to do it the maximum, just carry this with you every day. But here's what I'm going to recommend to you: is take the SWISH first thing in the morning. Very first thing in the morning. That's when I take it before coffee. I swish it around. Again, the longer you swish, 30 to 60 seconds at least, but the longer you swish, the better. As you just heard, Mauricio swish vigorously. 1 or 2 minutes, even better. But when you take this, guys, CBD and CBG, as you're going to hear a little bit about, is known for its weight loss. So is curcumin and some other ingredients. Ashwagandha is known and observed to help lose weight. So you're helping that. Again, Mauricio lost 90 pounds, guys. We've had other people lose 50 pounds just on the swish alone. So take that in the morning. Take this with you throughout the day. And then the last thing is, guys, is use this sleep at night. This is kind of your PM version. When you go to bed at night, even if you don't have trouble sleeping, guys, I would spray 9 sprays of this. So when you look at this, you got the CBD, the CBG in here. You got the valerian root. You've got the holy basil in there, all known, and some others that are known to help and aid in weight loss. So while you're sleeping, you got 6 to 8 hours there that the body's laying there. Why not let it be burning some fat and losing some weight while you're sleeping, guys? Some of the best weight loss can be done at night while you're sleeping, and good sleep helps that. But let your body burn some fat while you're sleeping. So that's kind of the trifecta. If you want the maximum, you can just do this only. But I would say 1, 2, and then at night. So here's your PM, guys. And so that's what we recommend you taking there. Now, with that, guys, I'm going to get it out of your way here for a second and introduce you to our lead formulator of the products. And, someone has to kind of put this together. We kind of have our 2 cents worth, right? And kind of what we want. We know what we want the products to do, but someone's got to choose these ingredients, right? And say, hey, do this, do that, don't do that. And so we have an amazing doctor that formulates our products. She's a wealth of knowledge. I've watched her on some CBD videos. She's very well knowledge at CBD. We had a great conversation yesterday about absorption and nano and why the products are, she's formulated all these products you see, guys. She's the lead formulator on all of them. And so she comes back and says, I would use these and I wouldn't use that, and so forth. And we have a kind of a group effort, but she's the lead formulator. And I think you'd all say that these products flat work, the pain, the serenity, and all that. So excited to have her on board as part of the Cili team here. Dr. Zora Grand Prix. I call her Dr. Z or Dr. Zora. She sends me her messages back because it says Z, so I like that. So Dr. Zora, and I always think about the Zora, with the sword or whatever. I'm like, that's who we got on our team, right? But she is a licensed neuropathic physician, okay, and a background in clinical and science research. And her original training was as a chemist and specializing in drug design. And she has her BS from SUNY at Buffalo in New York there in medical chemistry. And her master's degree is from Rosewell Park Cancer Center, right? And she is works with formulations of high quality what I like to say, high quality evidence-based supplements. And she don't go on theory, right? She goes by experience of her previous formulations as well as evidence-based. She's published, she's very well published and published textbooks on botanical medicine, drug/herb interactions, treatment of alcoholism and of addiction, homeopathy, and other topics there. So again, she's a professional writer, specializing in neuropathic and functionality, and practicing medical physician, family physician up in Washington, and much more. Okay. But just we are just so excited and blessed to have her on and have her formulating our products. And so Dr. Z, Dr. Zura, bring your sword out and let's go do this thing, right? So anyway, welcome to our webinar. We've got hundreds and hundreds of people on here across the country and some parts of the world. And I'm just going to back out of here. I've got my notepad, and let me just say this, guys. When she sent this particular formulation over, we went, we talk and have a few come back and forth, and then she goes to work. And some of you, when we gave you the weight loss sample, you saw the information of what she did. I was just so blown away and impressed. She didn't take this, okay, this burns fat and this suppresses that. No, she went and really just put this thing on its head and working with the hormones. I'm like, I never heard of this weight loss approach. I was so impressed. I'm like, this is brilliant of what she's done. So I already told you that, Dr. Z, but just incredible. And she's going to speak to that a little bit, but I'm just going to, you should be able to, I see you on the screen. I'm going to stop my screen share. So you're the only one here. And you have your, you can bring up the screen share there when you want, but welcome. And share us with us why this formula and why it's incredible and why it's working so well, and why you put it together, your philosophy there.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know if I have a sword, because I actually, I have a black belt in Ishinryu Karate. So we did do some sword work, but thank you so much for that introduction. And I will be sharing the screen now. And have you got it? If you could just let me know, make sure that
yes.
You have that.
Yep.
Okay, terrific. Actually, I'm going to change that because that was the wrong. So let's see what I do with that. Anyway, so thank you so much for the introduction. Let me end this and then go back. Your introduction was really excellent, and you didn't miss a beat, except that I am a naturopathic physician, and I'm not able to share the screen right now.
Yeah, we see it.
Oh, you do see it. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you see it in?
I see a tent.
Large. Okay, that's not what you want to see. All right.
Yeah, but anyway, we see it.
So sorry.
Oh, no problem.
All right, now you see it. Okay. So let's start from the beginning. So as you mentioned, and I said you got it all right, except I'm a naturopathic physician. So I did start out in drug design, and medicinal chemistry is organic chemistry of drug design, and did a lot of research, and came to naturopathic medicine a little bit late in life. And part of the reason kind of explains why I thought about this formulation the way I did. So I turned to herbs during a particular point in my life, but one of the main reasons was that their safety profile was so much better than any of the medications that were out there. One of the things that always concerned me as a medicinal chemist was the side effects, the adverse effects. Why was that happening? And I found through a lot of research and personal experience that with the herbs, you did not get those kinds of side effects, adverse effects. That's not to say that everything natural is excellent for you. That's obviously not true, but that was one of the main driving forces for me entering into this field. So when Brad first brought up the subject of weight loss, I thought, you know, as probably everyone on the planet, I've experienced ups and downs in weight. And I started thinking about it. What is the background for this? What is really the ultimate cause? One of the things that we really learn to emphasize in naturopathic medicine, which for those of you who don't know, we're primary care physicians. And so I do see patients, but our emphasis is first of all on holistic medicine, taking all of it into account. Then our secondary emphasis is adjusting and prevention and treatment by adjusting lifestyle, adjusting your nutrition, your diet, how the choices you make in your life can affect you. So when Brad started talking about, you know, some kind of formulation for weight loss, you know, one of the principles is to allow the body of the principles of naturopathic medicine is to allow the body to heal itself, because it wants to heal itself. That's the normal equilibrium. So if you kind of remove the barriers and then also add in factors that can ease that journey back into balance, then you're going to facilitate the body's natural response. And I think from the description that Brad gave you of the responses people have, you know, that their mood was changed, that the sleep was improved. And by the way, sleep is absolutely, in this PowerPoint, I don't mention sleep, and I'm so glad Brad mentioned that, because without adequate, sufficient sleep, you're not going to lose weight. So that's another thing to emphasize to people, that these natural products don't work by. A number of years ago, I was talking to a Chinese trained physician who was also a PhD, and I said, you know, what's the main difference between the traditional Chinese approach and the Western approach? And he put it this way: Western medicine is very good at taking a shotgun blast and blasting a hole in the wall and destroying the disease. Whereas Chinese medicine takes a much gentler, slower approach and is more interested in prevention. So I'm kind of combining those two in the sense that I want to slowly, gently change the balance in the body while kind of blasting a hole in the weight problem. So anyway, that was the approach that I took, and here we go. So an individual's weight is controlled by a number of different factors. We wish it was simple, but it's not really simple. We wish that all we had to do would be for, you know, one week just eat only fruit or vegetables, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, we're slim and trim again. And that's unfortunately not how it works. It's controlled by genetic and epigenetic change factors, as well as by a lot of hormonal networks and the endocannabinoid system. And I'll talk a little bit about the endocannabinoid system when I talk about CBD and CBG. And it's also controlled by neurotransmitters. The key here is that it's when you think of any kind of approach to healthcare, I'd love you to think in terms of a web, a network. If you watch spiders on a web, if one part of that web is disturbed, the whole web is disturbed. So what this formulation and the other formulations are striving to do is to rebalance that web, that network, so that it finds its best equilibrium and best balance. Okay, so, and I did want to just mention, this is something to keep an eye out for. A number of years ago when I was still in medical school, I had some issues with the lack of data sometimes in holistic medicine. When these studies first started coming out, I literally did the happy naturopath dance, because this was the epigenetics, the study of epigenetics was the answer I was looking for. So epigenetics is very important and will become even more important in health research. That's the study of inheritable traits, but they don't involve changes in the DNA. There's no change in the DNA sequence, it's how the genes are expressed. And these are the kinds of things that can truly and deeply alter how your body responds. If you can control the changes, that can then control how hunger is expressed or how appetite is expressed, whether it's suppressed or whether it's enhanced, you can make the difference. And the epigenetic factors are exactly those kind of lifestyle choices and lifestyle factors that you can choose. You can't change your genetic background. It's done. What you can do is change the epigenetic factors that can influence weight, all the hormones that are involved, in any sense, but in this case, what we're talking about that will help regulate appetite and hunger. So some of these factors include food sensitivities. I'm just going to run through these. Food sensitivities, the presence of additives and preservatives. What that means is essentially you are what you eat in very basic ways. You are what you eat. Environmental pollutants, any kind of stress. And by the way, when it comes to stress, you don't have to necessarily see it as stress. It's whether your body is responding to it as stress. That's the important thing. Alcohol and tobacco use, your level of physical activity, and I take it back, I did mention sleep. That is absolutely critical. Okay, now a little bit more into the hormones that are involved in weight control. And this is a relatively new area of study. So adipokines, because we love to have a great name, adipokines are the chemical messengers that are made by fat cells. The adipocytes make adipokines. And these include all sorts of hormones that have been found to be really important in the development and maintenance of obesity. It's not certainly the amount of food you eat and the kinds of food you eat make a huge difference in how much you weigh. But what's really important, besides the fact that shaming people never works, but besides that, what is also really important is that once say you go through a circumstance in life and you've turned to comfort food and you gain weight, or you're just getting older and you gain weight. That happens to a lot of us. Once you get beyond a certain tipping point, it gets much more difficult to control. But it can be controlled, and that was my motivating factor. It can be controlled if you understand some of the controls on it. So you as an individual, the people you know as individuals can get some of that control back, but you have to take the steps that will allow your body to do that for you. In addition to reducing your calorie intake, in addition to getting good sleep, and in addition to physical exercise. So the ones I want to focus on today are mostly leptin and adiponectin, and also ghrelin. So ghrelin is actually produced in the stomach. And again, with the body is relatively conservative. In other words, if it finds a particular, we have evolutionary conservation. So once nature finds a specific way of handling a situation, it tends to keep it because it works. In the body, and students complain about this all the time. Oh, there's so many different functions. But the beauty of that is that with so many different functions, there are so many levels of control. And the lesson that I take home from that is with these many different functions, that allows your body to fine tune the different hormone levels. So leptin is one of the adipokines hormones that we're focusing on. It can affect blood pressure, it can affect thyroid hormone synthesis, it can affect the immune response, reproductive cycle, and your bone mass. And it really does make sense, particularly, let's talk real quick about thyroid hormone synthesis. people with thyroid problems, me for example, I have an autoimmune disease, so that makes me particularly interested in it. When you have a low functioning thyroid, people tend to gain weight. And part of that is because of the thyroid hormone itself, but part of that is also the effects that leptin has on weight control. So leptin's main function in appetite control is to decrease your appetite by giving you a feeling of you're full, satiety, you're full. You don't need to eat anymore. And hopefully that should be the clue to stop eating. So leptin resistance, though, develops. It becomes, I was talking about how you can begin to take control and reach that tipping point. When leptin starts to increase because of weight gain and because of overeating and because you're not kind of paying attention to the signals, then part of what develops is leptin resistance, which is very similar to the resistance to insulin that we see in prediabetes and diabetes. So leptin resistance means that your cells are exposed to leptin, but don't respond to leptin. So it's that kind of leptin is supposed to make you feel full, but then you don't feel full. You increase your eating, leptin increases, and then your cells don't respond to leptin, and then you don't feel full, and you maybe eat some more. If you can see how that kind of vicious cycle gets set up. Now, another important hormone that I was focused on in this formulation is adiponectin. That also regulates blood sugars and fatty acid breakdown. So you can see, just with the idea of that it's related to blood sugar levels, how this can also relate to weight control and to prediabetes and diabetes. So we're never just looking at one issue. We may have the focus on weight control, but it impacts on all different areas of health. So in obesity, once an individual has gotten to that stage, adiponectin decreases and insulin resistance increases. So again, you have that overlap between weight control, prediabetes, diabetes, and insulin sensitivity. Ghrelin is another hormone that's not an adipokine that's made in the stomach, but it stimulates appetite. And I always kind of remember it by saying ghrelin because it's just my little mnemonic, science fun. And it promotes fat storage. So in obesity, again, once you've gone past that tipping point, the ghrelin levels decrease and then increase during dieting. And that's where you get the rebound effect, because people will control their diet, control, and then all of a sudden kind of explode. And one reason behind that is that the ghrelin, which stimulates appetite, increases then during dieting. So the goal is essentially to use herbs with evidence-based, because I don't do anything unless I can convince myself that it's a rational approach, and my standards hopefully are very high as far, because herbal research is in many ways in its infancy, and a lot of the questions I, for example, want answered haven't been answered yet. So these are all based on the best evidence that I could find, and the goal is to use these herbs and the other products as well to gently nudge the system back into homeostasis. Gently, because then you won't have that rebound effect. Nudging back into homeostasis, into the balance that the body is essentially seeking. Okay, so essentially what I wanted to find was any combination of ingredients that would decrease leptin and, importantly, decrease the resistance to leptin and to decrease ghrelin, while at the same time increasing adiponectin. That would decrease your appetite, give you the feeling of satiety, feeling of fullness, so you didn't want to eat something else. And because herbs also like as everything else in nature, have more than one function. If I could choose the herbs, adaptogens, and other ingredients to also mitigate any anxiety, any depression, anything along those lines, then it would have a better chance of being successful. And I'll deviate just quickly here to say how nice it is to hear something that I work on here is so successful for so many people. That really is great to hear. I had the video off while Brad was talking about some of that, and I was doing the happy naturopath dance. So down to some of the specific herbs. Irvingio is the African mango, and it works, and the reason I have it in there, it works synergistically, and the data shows that it works synergistically with Cissus to reduce insulin resistance, and the thinking was leptin resistance as well. And synergistically is very much what you hear in CBD articles and talks about CBD. Synergistically, herbalists traditionally have talked about herbs working synergistically, which is why most traditional herbal preparations are 4, 7, sometimes 12 different herbs that are chosen to work together to produce the particular effect. In CBD, we talk about the entourage effect, which is very similar to the synergistic effect. And I just want you to kind of make that connection. So these two were the first one, the African mango tree and the Cissus, that had research backing them that they would be functional in producing some of the effects that I was looking for. I'm just going to call it Job's tears. I listened to some tapes on how to actually pronounce, I think it's Koik Lacrima Jobi, but I'm sticking with Job's tears. And Garcinia are the next two. So Job's tears has been shown in animal studies to reduce the sensation of hunger and to decrease leptin levels and cholesterol levels. And again, here, this is where you can choose herbs that have the synergistic effects, but also the complementary effects. In other words, someone who's dealing with a weight problem is likely also dealing with a cholesterol issue. So if you can find a particular herb or herb combination that affects both, that's great. And Garcinia is high in hydroxycitric acid. And now that acts within the biochemistry of the body to inhibit the conversion of carbohydrates into fats. And now curcuma longa or turmeric is one of my favorite herbs, all in all. And that's, again, where Brad and I were talking about the nanotechnology, because a number of years ago, I was talking with a number of researchers working with curcuma, and their big problem was that the bioavailability was so low. With the nanotechnology, curcuma is probably one of the most potent, effective anti-inflammatory plant agents that we have. So if you increase the bioavailability of it, you increase its effectiveness. So curcuma longa or turmeric, plus I love curry, it inhibits the pro-inflammatory enzymes that increase inflammation, and obesity is a chronic disease of inflammation. So you want to take that into account and keep that as a lot of these herbs, I may not highlight it here, but a lot of these herbs and other ingredients, they're also anti-inflammatory, certainly CBD and CBG. They're anti-inflammatory, and if you can reduce the inflammatory state, that is going to increase your chances and increase your weight loss, because the state of inflammation essentially keeps you way past that tipping point that I mentioned. Another one of my favorite herbs is Harpagophytum procumbans, because I like saying it. It's devil's claw. It's another anti-inflammatory, but it also has another function, and it activates the ghrelin receptor pathway. So it also, and the data isn't completely in yet, but certainly very suggestive that it also helps regulate the other appetite regulating hormones. Okay, saffron was another Saffron, you might be interested to know, has GRAS status, generally recognized as safe status, and it also has a significant antioxidant capacity. Antioxidant capacity can reduce the free radicals, which can reduce damage, which can and also reduces inflammation. So all these things are tied in. Sometimes you need to look a little bit longer to find the tie-in, but they're all tied in. Saffron also has the advantage that it can lower blood fats and reduce the, again, pro-inflammatory effects of obesity. And it's been, some data is in that it can also help reduce the level of insulin resistance. And remember, I said insulin resistance is a pre-diabetes state. And now, probably a lot of you have been very interested in CBD and CBG. And CBD has been out since, just to give you an idea of some of the issues, and Brad's right, I've done an awful lot of work with CBD. So in 2018, the Farm Bill passed, and that took CBD off the schedule list. And as long as, and this product has absolutely no THC, so the THC has been totally removed, and so you just, from both the CBD and the CBG, so you have these two cannabinoids. Now there are hundreds of different cannabinoids, and we're really just starting to look at them, and they work with the human endocannabinoid system, which I think I'll go into in just a moment. Chemically, they're very different, but they do bind in different ways to the endocannabinoid receptors CB1 and CB2. So we know of at least 6 classes, and some of the most fun to pronounce cannabinoids, and the amount of each class, it depends on the plant strain, the growing conditions, the type of soil, and the extraction process used. One of the most important things to remember about both CBD and CBG, and just in case you're interested, CBD is cannabidiol and CBG is cannabidiol. So both of these are non-intoxicating, meaning they do not have any psychoactive effects, meaning you don't get high. I do a lot of work with seniors, and I had a 70-some-year-old lady very concerned that, she would get high, and I said, you're not going to go dancing naked in the streets with CBD or CBG. So it's, her results were excellent, by the way, when she did use CBD. So it's very important to understand that they're non-intoxicating, have no psychoactive effects, and according to the World Health Organization, non-addictive. So if that has been a concern for any of you, I can put your mind at ease. They're non-intoxicating and non-addictive. And that's really an important thing for people to understand, because some of the issues surrounding cannabis in general. So CBD and CBG both act on the human endocannabinoid system, the normal natural system it was called endocannabinoid simply because we used cannabinoids to discover it. And so it's a critically important system that regulates homeostasis in general, that balance, as a really broad term. It has, but that balancing and the homeostasis is reflected in the immune system, the nervous system, the cardiovascular system, the digestive system, the endocrine system, and just about every other system you could come up with. The role of the endocannabinoid system, the ECS, has been called eat, sleep, relax, forget, and protect. That pretty much covers it. So, excuse me. As I said, it's the natural system that was called endocannabinoid because we used cannabinoids to describe it, to discover and describe it. Okay. You never see me doing a presentation without a chemical structure here. It's It's the chemist in me coming out. So CBG is often derived from very young plants because, and the one reason that you find it in higher levels in very young plants is that it's the parent compound. So CBG is the basic building block, and other cannabinoids are derived from it. So in the ECS, there's two CB receptors, 1 and 2. You have varying kinds of binding to it, and the effects, the end effects from the various types of binding, it depends on the ratio of cannabinoids, but it also depends on how those cannabinoids are delivered. So CBG binds to both CB1 and CB2. Importantly, it seems to work, and here's that word again, it works in synergism with CBD to control appetite. It's the entourage effect that researchers in CBD have been looking to prove. This is an example of the entourage effect. So it binds both to CB1 and CB2 receptors, and it is anti-inflammatory, especially in the GI. And again, when we're talking about weight control, reducing the inflammation in the area where the foods are absorbed, I won't go into it, but will reduce your chances of leaky gut syndrome, disrupting the microbiome, which is critical to keep in place as well when you're trying to lose weight. So, but it's an anti-inflammatory. It's an analgesic. It works to reduce pain. How many people, if they're uncomfortable and in pain, turn to comfort food? Antiemetic, it reduces nausea, so it makes the whole eating experience better. And it appears, as I said, to work synergistically with CBD to moderate your appetite. And it's being looked at, these combinations are being looked at in cancer research to help patients undergoing chemotherapy to deal with the nausea and vomiting associated with chemotherapy. CBD now, on the other hand, it's not really on the other hand, but because, as I said, they work synergistically, CBD has more anxiolytic, meaning reducing anxiety and depression effects. It also functions as an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and anti-nausea. CBD binds, we know a little bit more about how it binds. It doesn't bind to the receptor directly. It kind of changes the shape of the receptor. And the idea is that that increases the natural, because that change in binding reduces it inhibits the enzymes that destroy the natural enantiamides that work on the endocannabinoid system. So it ends up keeping those levels at a higher level. That's the way it seems to work, like amantadine. It may also actually boost metabolism and reduce appetite, especially in conjunction with CBG. And as an added kind of metabolic bonus, it increases, there's two types of fat, there's brown fat and white fat. It increases the conversion to brown fat, which is, I tend to remember it as the hibernating fat. It's much, this is the kind of fat that's used in hibernating bears, but it's much more of an effective energy releaser, so it's easier to burn, is the final point. And it also tends to reduce the particularly dangerous abdominal fats. Okay, so that the CBD and CBG working together will do that. The other ingredients, I don't know what time I'm running, but the other ingredients, conjugated linoleic acid and acetyl-carnitine, function to the CLA functions to reduce fat accumulations. It inhibits the enzymes in the fat cells, and the acetyl-L-carnitine is essentially a biochemical boost and allows the mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell, to convert the fatty acids into energy. So it's basically a booster. So as with anything, we just haven't done the testing. I would not predict any problems for anyone taking pregnant or nursing women, but we just haven't done the testing. So that's a natural contraindication. These contraindications are kind of like a lot of the work I do with people is to put them onto a better diet, better lifestyle, and as I'm doing that, reduce their medications because they don't need as much. So someone comes in with a blood sugar of 600, I may start them on a blood sugar reducing medication, but I'm also working with them to change their diet. And then as they're changing their diet, we're taking a look at their blood work and reducing their need for this medication. So because this supplement can affect blood sugar levels, I just recommend that anyone who's using it keep an eye on those things because those medications may not be as needed. So they have to keep an eye on that. And just as a general rule, I always recommend that anyone taking any kind of supplementation should be doing so with a healthcare professional. It's just the smarter thing to do. We talked about this a little bit because dieting alone is not the answer. A supplement alone is not the answer. You have to put it all together. I always talk about people and Humpty Dumpty falling off the wall, and no one bothers to put them back together again. So when you put all of these things back together, the weight loss formulation that we've been talking about today, along with I usually either recommend the Mediterranean diet or an anti-inflammatory diet. They're essentially the same thing. It's a whole foods diet, heavy on vegetables and fruit, low on red meat, unless it's grass-fed beef, high in fish, a lot of fish, and a lot of nuts and seeds. Kind of fun story. There was this neighbor, 13-year-old, happened to be over here, right around supper time, and he looked into a pot where I had put this whole grain mixture. He looked into it and he said, "Why is there birdseed in this saucepan?" He just was unfamiliar with it. I said, "Well, it's not bird feed, it's human feed." So people aren't used to eating whole foods, but it's also a critical aspect of weight loss, and good sleep and increased physical activity. But that's the kind of thinking. I bring a lot of holistic thinking into any kind of formulation. I think about what people's lifestyle is and how they'll be able to take it, and you know, how all of it can fit together. So the formulations are holistic. I'm trying to overlap and complement different actions of the various ingredients, and you know, the approach is holistic, trying to understand how it's going to affect a person and how to make it easiest for them to follow through with their, in this case, weight loss plan. So that's it. I am going to stop my share.